I just returned this past Sunday night from a 10-day trip in Colombia's coffee axis. 9 days of hotels, food, buses, wine, and cocktails, just $716. And then I added a night of eco luxury at Biohabitat Hotel with 2 gourmet lunches, a dinner, and even a massage for another $382. That means the entire 10-day journey came in at just $1,098. My goal was to show you both inexpensive options as well as a luxury option. Welcome back to the Americano. I'm Matt, and on this trip, I started in Bogota, then traveled through Líbano, Murillo, Manizales, Santa Rosa de Cabal, Pereira, Montenegro's Parque del Café, Salento, Finlandia, and finally, Armenia. This video is really just a preview of this trip. Over the next few weeks, I'll be breaking down each of these places in separate videos, showing you what life, travel, and costs look like in these Colombian cities. But today I'm giving you the big picture. What a 10-day trip through the coffee axis actually cost, what the experience was like, and why this region shows why Colombia is one of the best snowbird and Plan B destinations out there. This trip started in Bogota, where I decided to take the bus into the coffee axis to show just how affordable transportation can be here.
So Rapido Tolima was able to get me 2 tickets direct to Líbano, which I'm headed to Murillo. And so this was 120 or 120,000 pesos.
My bus ride took me from Bogota to the town of Líbano for a cost of 60,000 pesos or $15. Which took around 5 hours, where I got some lunch, then found a Jeep to the even smaller town of Murillo. You probably haven't heard of Murillo. It's a small, colorful, colonial, high elevation town sitting at 2,950 meters or 9,680 feet above sea level. It has less than 5,000 people. This is definite long sleeve and jacket weather. That's 310 meters or 1,000 feet higher than Bogota. I came here to do a volcano tour, which took me all the way to 4,400 meters or around 14,500 feet above sea level. From there, I continued on to Manizales, a mountain city with cable cars, a dramatic cathedral, and a real city meets coffee country vibe. The climate here is a little warmer than Bogota while still being cooler than Medellin, and the city has over 400,000 people, so a great option for those who want smaller than Bogota with that nice in-between climate option. Next up was Santa Rosa de Cabal, home to the famous natural hot springs. An all-day pass cost me about $12.50. This was a really cool place to visit, and the city of Santa Rosa de Cabal was more polished than most cities with a lot of new construction and modern buildings. From there, I moved through Pereira, which is, if I'm honest, was a really nice city. Like, as much as I love Bogota, I could totally live in this city. Great restaurants, easy to get around, and the traffic wasn't as chaotic as Bogota. And speaking of restaurants, one of my viewers that I've had the opportunity to have dinner with, Daniel, had been here a week before me and recommended a Peruvian restaurant that I ate at, and it was fantastic. As a foodie, Pereira delivers on restaurants. This city has a population of 480,000 people and sits at 1,411 meters or 4,629 feet above sea level, giving it about the same temperatures as you'd get in Medellin. In fact, I met many people from Medellin who now call Pereira home. After that, I spent a full day at Parque del Café, Colombia's coffee-themed amusement park. Affordable, fun, and a really unique experience. A full day pass was around $23 or $24. I then spent a day in Salento, an iconic colonial town with colorful buildings. Salento has less than 10,000 people and sits at around 1,900 meters above sea level or 6,620 feet. I did a coffee tour while I was here at the Buenos Aires Coffee Farm. My next destination was Finlandia, which I honestly knew nothing about. And I love Salento so much that I didn't really want to leave But when I arrived in Finlandia, it was like Salento on steroids. Also a beautiful colonial town with colorful buildings. It was full of artisan shops and coffee culture. About the same altitude as Salento, but with slightly more people at around 12,600. Both Salento and Finlandia are tourist towns. So while the populations are not high, there are many tourists. Both towns have plenty of hotels and hostels. I love meeting the various tourists when I travel because I find each place unique with those who show up. I'd go as far as saying that Salento and Finlandia were probably 50% Colombian tourists and around 49% were European, Australian, and Canadian, with that final 1% being from the US. Now that being said, I want to ask you, my audience, why do you think the percentage is so small from Americans? Of course, there are plenty of Americans visiting Medellin, Cartagena, and Bogota, but why don't they go to small Colombian towns? I'm an American and I have no clue. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I've noticed this in other small towns across Colombia as well. But next up was my luxury part of the trip outside of Armenia, at the Biohabitat Hotel, an eco-luxury stay with panoramic forest views, gourmet meals, and even a massage. I don't typically stay in expensive hotels because I feel that a hotel with good ratings, a clean bed, and a pillow are all I need because the purpose is to only sleep there and spend the day out exploring your destination. However, when I ran across this hotel on Booking.com, I felt like this was the destination. As I previously mentioned, this place was $382 of the trip. However, that amount included 3 meals at their restaurant as well as a massage. The actual room, which was iconic in itself, was $184 and included breakfast. Not a typical hotel breakfast, but more of a restaurant style breakfast. The massage was around $75-ish, so the remaining $123 was for 2 lunches and a dinner, which all included wine. So while this might initially sound high, I think we can all agree for a luxury option, this was actually very reasonable. This was my big splurge, and it completely elevated the trip. Finally, I ended in Armenia to explore the city. Armenia has around 300,000 people, about the same as Greensboro, North Carolina, where I called home for several decades. It sits at 1,550 meters or 5,090 feet above sea level, and I find the climate here similar to Medellin, even though it is slightly higher elevation. Almost all of the travel between these places was by bus, somewhat comfortable, definitely reliable, and very affordable. I had 3 private drivers along the way for convenience. There were a few that were by Jeep too. All of these costs were trivial. In fact, some of them were around $1. However, if I'm honest with you, I'm not really a bus fan, and I took one for the team to show you how cheap you can travel. So from Armenia, I took a flight back to Bogota, which was about $75. I did that on Wingo, which is Colombia's answer to Spirit Airlines. Yeah, not a fan either. So that $75 price tag included adding a checked bag and picking my seat. No one wants the middle seat. I prefer the aisle seat. Just like Spirit, Wingo nickels and dimes you for everything. But the Armenia airport is slightly more expensive to fly out of than the larger Pereira airport. So across 10 days, I got the full range. Budget-friendly local buses, mid-range daily costs with cocktails and wine included, and a luxury eco hotel stay, all adding up to $1,098. Now let's dig into the numbers, because this is where the trip gets really interesting. When people think of international travel, they usually picture spending thousands, flights, hotels, restaurants, activities. It all adds up fast. But here in Colombia, I tracked every peso I spent, and here's how it breaks down. For hotels, the total was $249 if you don't count the $184 for Biohabitat. That's $31 a day. For transportation, including the $75 flight, that total came out to $161. That includes Ubers and taxis in each city, cable car rides in Manizales and Pereira, bus rides, Jeep rides, and the 3 private car rides I had. So without the flight, that was only $86. For meals, this was $310, and that amount 100% includes the meals I had at the luxury Biohabitat Hotel. Activities which included the coffee tour, the volcano tour, the thermals, the Parque del Cafe theme park, and going up in a tower in Manizales, That was $99. Not much at all. Think about that for a moment. Under $720 for 9 days of travel, lodging, food, drinks, activities, and transportation included. That's about $80 a day. And most of that was with me not holding back. I wasn't eating street food every night. I was sitting down for proper meals and ordering drinks. Then on top of that, I added the luxury splurge of the Biohabitat Hotel. This kind of place in the US or Europe would easily run you $1,000 a night or more. And here's the kicker. I wasn't traveling on a shoestring. I had wine, I had cocktails. I went to theme parks. I stayed in hotels and I capped it off with a night of luxury. That's not budget travel. That's quality of life at an affordable price. And for snowbirds, expats, or just tourists, this matters. If you can travel this comfortably for 10 days under $1,100, imagine stretching that out over a few months. Your rent for a modern furnished apartment might be $700 a month. Your meals are half the price of North America or Europe, and you still have the option to splurge on luxury when you want, without it breaking the bank. That's the value Colombia offers. Not just cheap living, but an affordable upgrade in lifestyle. Numbers are one thing, but what does this kind of trip actually feel like? Here's what I love about Colombia. You don't have to choose between budget travel and comfort. Most of my trip was built on affordable, everyday experiences. Buses between cities that cost a fraction of what a rental car or flight would back home. Local hotels that were clean and comfortable, and meals where a steak dinner with wine doesn't set you back more than $15 or $20. Even on the move, it never felt like I was skimping. I wasn't eating instant noodles or staying in hostels. I was ordering cocktails, sitting down for proper lunches, and getting a taste of Colombian hospitality at every stop. And then, when I wanted to turn it up a notch, Colombia made that possible too. This is the real secret to Colombia. Everyday life can be affordable and enjoyable, but you also have access to world-class experiences without world-class prices. And what I've shared here is really just the recap. Over the next few weeks, I'll be releasing a full video on each of these stops so you can see exactly what life and travel looks like in every city. So please subscribe and hit that bell notification so you are notified when I drop these videos. Each of these upcoming videos will break down costs, lifestyle, and what makes these destinations attractive if you're considering Colombia as either a snowbird escape or even a plan B for the future or retirement. If this kind of content is valuable for you, if you want to see what it really costs to live, travel, and build a life abroad, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the Americano, and stay tuned. And be sure to sign up for my free email newsletter, The Passport, which is a once-a-week email that covers travel, visa information, and expat life. There's also a free digital monthly magazine of The Passport that is included with that. And let me know in the comments what other types of videos you'd like to see me do in the future. Until then, remember, you don't have to shovel snow when you can sip coffee in the Andes. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.